On March 2018, a parent decided to go on his child's phone, and these are the messages he found. I mean, usually it wouldn't be suspicious, cause think about it. Teenagers just flirting around with their girlfriends or girls in their class or some stuff. But then you think about it and you realize, this kid is 13 years old. 13, 1, 3, and the person on the other side of the phone is a teacher.
He can't bring himself to say, like we had sex. But when we ask him, he says yes, and he says we did, and then he just says we did it.
This is Brittany Zamora, and before I tell you a lot about her, look at that face. Just stare at that face. Look closely. Analyze that face. Does that look like a woman who will be down bad? Surely, most people will say it doesn't, because this woman is really attractive. So attractive you wouldn't think she would indulge in such activities with a 13-year-old. A 13-year-old that she happens to teach in a classroom.
Hi. Your name and your date of birth, please.
Brittany Zamora, 1591.
And appearances, please.
Scott Wolfram for the state, Your Honor.
You're here on a new case out of Superior Court for 4 counts of sexual conduct with a minor, Class 2 felonies, 5 counts of sexual conduct with a minor, Class 2 felonies, 2 counts of child molestation, Class 2 felonies, and 1 count of obscene material transmittal, a Class 4 felony.
God damn, that's a lot. A lot of felonies for one woman. But I might be getting ahead of myself. So let's learn, who is Brittany Zamora? Actually, how did it start? And how was she caught? That's more important.
Only briefly, Your Honor. Again, the attached addendum is clear as to the nature of the allegations. It's clear we have more than one victim, and it remains to be determined if there are any others. Your Honor, given the nature of the allegations contained within the addendum, the state, the assigned deputy county attorney in this matter has requested a reasonable setting in the amount of $300,000 secured appearance bond, as well as the other mandatory conditions, as well as no contact with the alleged victims and or witnesses in this matter.
Now, Ms. Zamora, if you would like, is there anything you'd like the court to know with respect to release conditions? I don't want you to address the charges because your attorney's not here, but the court has to make a decision as to what to do with release today. So is there anything you'd like me to know about releasing you or a bond? And if you don't have anything to say, that's okay as well.
I'm not sure if I understand. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So the court just asked for the state's opinion as to releasing you, and he requested a very high bond to keep you in custody.
Okay.
I don't want you to comment on the charges without your attorney here.
Okay.
So is there anything you just want the court to know about whether or not I should release you or impose a bond at this time? And if you have nothing to say, that's okay as well.
I would love to go home to be released. That'd be amazing. I don't know if there's like just stay at my house, or I'd love to go home to my husband.
Anything else?
No.
Alright, Ms. Zamora. I don't think that's how it works, big man. I don't think that's how it works at all, big man.
The court is going to impose a bond at this time. The court is imposing a secured appearance bond in the amount of $250,000.
So with the way this woman got caught, I kind of see how she didn't see it coming. But then again, she should have known that there are so many apps on the market that you could just download on your child's phone so you could see whatever they do. I mean, this woman was 27 at the time when this happened. But let's cut to the chase and let's hear the real story. On March 21, 2018, this child's parents and his grandparents were just on his phone, just hanging out on his phone, and they saw a message. They saw a couple messages. Actually, they saw a ton of messages. At the exact time that they were on the phone, these were the exact messages they saw. And yes, these are messages from a 27-year-old to a 13-year-old. And yes, I know, it sounds like 2 teenagers talking, but it's not.
About any of that.
What happens next?
You will step over here. You're going to get a copy of all the stuff we just discussed, and then you will be held until you go to court or until that bond gets posted.
Upon receiving those text messages and talking to their child, they discovered that not only have this specific teacher been sending inappropriate pictures to this child and inappropriate messages to this child, this teacher has molested the child too.
He says that she was like, she'd always be flirting with him and touching him, they kissed a lot and all this other stuff.
When school was happening,
It'd be when you leave.
they would touch each other and hide it from the other students.
So think about this, right? This 27-year-old who's hooking up with a 13-year-old, let me not even use hooking up, who's molesting a 13-year-old, was so far off her mind to the point that she will pull up to the kid's house and wait outside for the kid to sneak out. That's crazy.
She showed up and got my son to sneak out in the middle of the night, and it was 2 nights in a row. The second night she came back, and that's when she did everything.
Yeah, if you think that's crazy, hear this part too. Many of those activities took place at school, during school hours, or at school sponsored events. So this woman was just doing all her stuff in the school. There were some times that even some children were in the class when it was happening. And you know the crazy thing about all this? The school itself knew this information. They've seen it, they've heard it, they've learned it, and they still decided not to report it to the police. And you know what's crazy? The most heinous of those crimes happened after the school had already learned about her behavior.
What is your name and date of birth, please?
Brittany Zamora, 1591.
All right, this is your initial appearance on counts number 12, 13, 14, and 15. A not guilty plea is entered on your behalf on all charges.
That's also one of the craziest things about this case. Even after all the evidence, the text messages, the videos, the witnesses, this woman decided to plead not guilty.
Trial conference on June the 5th, 2018 at 8:31 in the morning before the assigned judge, Judge Thompson. The court notes that you have private counsel retained in this matter. It is ordered affirming all prior release conditions.
So let's continue the story. So after the parents and the grandparents found out about the text messages and talked to their son about the text messages, they decided to trap Miss Zamora. Remember, this is when Miss Zamora knew nothing. This is initially when they first found out. They instructed the 13-year-old to test Miss Zamora, and this is how the conversation went. As you can see, the woman was down bad, like really bad. Like she was down tremendously, really bad. Like this woman said, if I could quit my job and have sex with you all day, I would. I will give you whatever you want, baby. Like, this is a 27-year-old talking to a 13-year-old. You will quit your job, your whole livelihood, just to be with a teenager, a 13-year-old who is not even 16. That's kind of crazy. Like, I wonder what was going through her life at that specific moment for her to be saying this to a 13-year-old.
I'm ashamed of my actions and am completely remorseful and truly regret what took place. I'm known to be a responsible, caring, happy, and thoughtful person. My actions were completely out of character for me. As an adult and teacher, I am meant to set an example and I did not follow according to that expectation.
Yeah, you definitely did not, but we're not here yet. Let's continue the story. So basically, right after they tricked Miss Zamora, the parents just realized, this teacher is really molesting the kid. So they decided to call the school's principal. And after they called the school's principal waited about 3 hours before he called the school's resource officer. Why he waited 3 hours, we don't know, but we assume maybe he called Miss Zamora first and then he called the resource officer. We don't know because during his call to the resource officer, he never said he's already called Miss Zamora. But that's not important. What's important right now is when the principal called the school's resource officer, the resource officer, had to report it. But then Miss Zamora and her husband, yes, I said it right, her husband, the whole time she has a husband, so she and her husband called the child's parents to further discuss the matter at hand. Basically, that shows that the principal called Miss Zamora first before he called the officer. That's kind of sketchy, because then it makes you think, did the principal know about this the whole time? Was the principal covering something up? We may either never know or we may know soon. But let's continue the story. Remember when I said we may never know or we may either know if the principal knew about it or not? So we found out the principal had a pre-existing relationship with Zamora. So there's a chance the principal knew about this and has been covering it up the whole time. But Miss Zamora, you have a husband, the principal, and you're having sex with a minor. Like, what's going on? What's going on?
You're a child molester. Do you understand me? No.
Why do you say that?
Oh, see, I'm a lot smarter than you.
Can we meet, to talk about this? Maybe something we can settle out, outside?
Oh yeah, that's what we can do, so I can give you a chance to do it to some other kid. Yeah, that's exactly what we're gonna do. No. And make sure you tell your husband what's going on.
He's right here. Can he talk to you?
Oh yeah, put your husband on the phone.
She's done so much, and she made a huge mistake. The biggest mistake of anybody could ever make in the whole entire world. But think about, God preaches forgiveness, man.
Your wife decided to be a monster and prey on a child. She scarred my son mentally. Do you understand what a 13-year-old boy did? Having sex with a teacher? Do you get that at all? Do me a favor. Do not call this number back again. The next time you'll hear from me will be in court.
I don't like to judge people, but her husband seemed like he also down really bad. Like, down tremendously. Imagine your wife, your whole wife, you just found out your wife is having sex with a 13-year-old. Your whole wife. Imagine that.
But hours later, the teen's parents call Zamora back with detectives in the room.
I just don't know why you did this.
Honestly, I just got really close after I think everything went down, and we were like, oh, how could that happen? And then
put in mind, this is basically when everything initially happened. This is when the dad found out, called the principal called Zamora, and they keep talking back and forth. This is before Zamora was arrested and even went to court. So it makes me think, how did she plead not guilty after basically admitting to the thing on the phone? Like, I don't understand.
How long where do you work right now, Brittany?
Las Brisas Academy.
And how long have you been there?
Since July.
What's your first year?
Well, at that school.
At that school. And where were you before that?
Littleton Elementary School.
And how long were you there?
From July 2013 to May 2017.
And what's your position right now?
Sixth grade teacher.
Sixth grade teacher, okay. And what did you do there?
Littleton?
Mm-hmm.
Fourth and fifth.
Okay. All right. And are you from Arizona, or did you?
I moved here when I was 10.
Okay. And where was that from?
Michigan.
Well, if you're from Michigan, then what football team were you cheering for?
The Cowboys. Not the Lions.
I'm from Wisconsin.
Not the Packers.
You didn't cheer for the Packers,
No.
man?
My husband and his family are diehard Cowboys fans, so.
Mm. See, when I grew up, Cowboys were our Cowboy fans were kind of thugs.
Uh-huh.
Everyone wore the star jacket just to be, cool.
Right.
And people got their starter jackets stolen.
Yeah.
They were robbed for it. So I grew up hating the Cowboys.
Oh, yeah.
So I have a reason to not like them. But now I kind of like them. So they're... Okay, so I got a little bit of background from you. And like I said, you know now for sure why you're here.
Yes.
And...
Can I ask you a question?
You can.
So is this arrest from the school, or was this from like something separate? So I had my school call me yesterday and tell me that I was on probation, but I had his father contact me today, so I was just trying to figure out which one it was from.
Well, it's more from things.
Okay.
Like, you know, the school doesn't really call me, and
Okay. So
the school is not pressing charges or something like that. It's dealing with, yeah. So dealing with that issue. So, and you know, there really is. I guess I wanted to give you the opportunity because there really is very little doubt on what happened. But I wanted you to be able to maybe explain, give you the opportunity to explain kind of why it happened, kind of thing. Because I'm not going to judge you, okay? And you said this is the first time you've been in trouble. Yeah, and you're 27, so you made it a long ways. So I'm not going to judge you, and people do make mistakes. So there's mistakes that are made in life, and they happen, and it's basically how people move on from those is kind of who they are as a person. So I'm not going to deny that, you know, that it's something, and I'm sure you're not either, that it's something that shouldn't have happened. But I'm not going to call you a monster or anything like that and say you did something so, you know, crazy that you're a horrible person. So I wanted you to explain, you know, how this came to happen.
Can I meet to have an attorney?
You can. Is that what you want?
Okay.
All right.
I just don't know if I go in private.
That's fine.
Will I be going home today?
No.
So will I be in jail? Do these type of things have to be made public?
They don't have to be made public, but you've kind of been in the school industry long enough to know that when something happens at a school, you know, letters end up having to go out and people ask questions.
Well, hypothetically speaking, what is a typical, like, consequence that you've, like, seen in the past?
I don't know. It varies. I can't give you. I know. I can't give you a black and white answer to that. You know, they take a lot of things into consideration. You know, you don't have a criminal history. At least you're telling me that, and I'll be honest with you, I haven't checked yet.
I never did anything.
So.
I'm sorry. It's just
That's okay. I do know. I'm not going to ask you any more questions because you said you wanted an attorney. So, did you have any more questions for me?
What are the next steps?
The next step is basically you do go to jail tonight. I submit some paperwork.
I'm little. They're going to tear me apart.
Well, I mean, if you have problems with somebody, you can voice that to somebody. Okay.
So I'm going to be linking the whole video in the description, but as you watch the whole video, you will notice that this woman is not even concerned about the things she did. She's more concerned about what's gonna happen in the future, how the process is gonna be. If you could remember, she said the same thing during her first appearance in court.
If they are gonna let you out on a certain amount of bond, and they make that determination on, you know, kind of how.
I am the best husband in the world.
Okay.
So
Well, what's that?
I'm sorry.
That's okay. So you'll see the judge and they'll determine what your bail amount is, okay? And whether or not you can get out on that bail amount. And that determines when you get out.
So how did this woman get herself in this predicament? Zamora lied using Classcraft, a teacher-student communication portal or application used in the school, and she would talk to her students outside of school through Classcraft. And that's how her relationship with the victim started.
He probably knows.
Okay.
Because he has called and actually asked for me, I believe. I will. Your mom is also here.
Yeah.
So, all right. I'm going to have you go back in there, and I will see if I can get you, see if we have any type of blanket or something, okay?
One day, out of nowhere, just out of nowhere, Miss Zamora made an announcement on Classcraft that she would not be coming to school and asked the students to test her on her phone. So, when she did that, obviously, the victim didn't test her because the victim was not that interested. But Miss Zamora herself tested the victim and was like, I am bored, and then proceeded to request the child to come to her house. So when she said that, the victim replied that he was on his way, joking. They then stopped talking about the coming over to her house stuff and started talking about the school dance. And then Ms. Zamora asked him if he was going to the school dance, and he said yes. So that is how that conversation ended. The cops was more concerned about what Classcraft was. So they asked another student in the class, and the student was like, yeah, Classcraft is our behavior. She sends direct messages on Instagram, the school Instagram account, which should further tell you that the school itself, the principal, knew about the situation. The principal knew that Ms. Zamora uses Classcraft to talk to her students, but I think he didn't know exactly how she talked to her students. The principal then asked Ms. Zamora, what is Classcraft? Ms. Zamora explains Classcraft in a nice way. So the principal then decided, I'm just not gonna check what Classcraft is. I'm just gonna take Ms. Zamora's word for it. The thing is, if the principal checked what Classcraft was, the principal would have found the messages from Zamora where she provided the victim with her personal phone number, among other inappropriate messages. So after all that, the principal didn't do anything about Classcraft, and it kept going on. Ms. Zamora kept on grooming the kid. Ms. Zamora just kept on testing the kid. Ms. Zamora kept on inappropriately flirting with the kid in class. There was even one time that 3 female students in Zamora's classroom prepared written statements about issues in the classroom between Zamora and the victim. The principal did not turn over the written statements to the police department. He claims that he could not locate the statements. So the whole point of this is, if Ms. Zamora is going down for this, I think the principal should be going down for this. Because the principal knew everything, knew what was going on between Zamora and the children, and still didn't do anything about it. Put in mind, this is a 27-year-old flirting with a 13-year-old. I don't care who you are, how much you love the teacher. If you see something like that, you say something. If you see something, say something. Even after Zamora's arrest, Principal Dickey continued his efforts to cover up Zamora's behavior while she was in the school. And I think he did that to cover his own ass, because now he knows that thing is going south and he has to cover up himself and help himself. So he's trying to cover up everything Ms. Zamora did and everything he lied about. But a couple while after all this was happening, the police discovered the post-it note between the student and Ms. Zamora, and it just got spicy. So at this point in time, you will see that it's looking really slow for Ms. Zamora. You will think she's just gonna plead guilty and then take a nice deal. But then Ms. Zamora decided, I will plead not guilty. Even after seeing all the evidence, even after admitting it on the phone with the victim's father, she just decided, I will plead not guilty. But I think maybe it might be more of a formality than what she decided to do. I just don't know.
Going forward, I would like to attend counseling and all other required courses, obtain a new degree, and seek new employment. I have already relinquished my teaching certification. My hope is to rejoin society a better and more grateful person. I have an incredible support system and know they will all be there for me every step of the way. Your Honor, I know the state did not take my mitigation and assessments into consideration, but I hope you can. I am a good and genuine person who made a mistake and regrets it deeply. I ask that you please have leniency in regard to my sentencing, that you see me as a person with a hopeful future and not just another number or case. Thank you so much for your time and consideration.
Thank you. The court finds the defendant did accept responsibility by pleading guilty. She has expressed her remorse. She has no prior criminal history. I've considered her age. I've considered the difficulties she experienced while growing up, as described by her mother and in all of the reports I have read. I have considered her character, as described in all of the documents I have read, and the accomplishments and achievements that she was able to complete prior to these events. I find that she has community support, she has family support. I have also considered the information in the risk assessment, and that includes some mental health issues as described by her attorney. I've also considered the fact that under the plea agreement, the defendant will be on supervised probation for a lifetime term on 2 counts. So, after weighing and balancing all of these factors, the court finds the stipulations in the plea agreement are appropriate. I'm going to order that the defendant register as a sex offender as to all 3 counts. I'm going to order that restitution remain open on all 3 counts for a period of 750 days. For amended count 1, the court finds that the presumptive term is appropriate, so it is ordered the defendant be incarcerated in the Department of Corrections for 20 calendar years with credit for 478 days of pre-sentence credit. As to amended count 2 and amended count 15, it is ordered suspending the imposition of sentence and placing the defendant on supervised probation for a lifetime term to begin upon physical release from the Department of Corrections. The terms and conditions of probation are in writing. You will have an opportunity to read and sign those terms shortly. When you sign the terms of probation, it indicates to the court you understand and will follow those terms. If you do not follow those terms, you can be returned to court and found in violation. Your probation could be revoked and you could be sent back to prison for the maximum term provided by law for each of these offenses for counts 2 and 15 as amended. Do you understand?
Yes.
You are to follow all of the standard terms and conditions of probation. In addition, you are to have no contact with any victim. You are not to return to the scene of the crime. You are to follow the sex offender terms of probation and the computer usage terms of probation.
Now, imagine if she was a guy. As a guy, you could even urinate outside and they would just hit you like 10 years and put you on a sex offender list. But for some reason, this woman had a whole full-blown sex with a 13-year-old in her classroom, a person that she teaches. And then the prosecutor just took everything into consideration and was like, yeah, we're just gonna give her about 20 years and then, we're gonna try and get her out early as possible as she can. She's really a good person. She just kind of, made a lot of mistakes. She had sex with a 13-year-old. Do you believe it would be the same thing if she was a guy?